Away, Europa fans. Welcome to another episode, watching what our Canaanites are doing. This evening, we're starting off in the domain of Tomas, where the Jagtier of both packs, for their own separate reasons, are waiting for an audience with him. When Jagtier arrives and is let in by Rosemary, he notices that Abigail has already been let in and seated. Evening, Abby.
Jagtier, I see we both have come to see Tomas.
Yes. Are you alone, or is your priest having a private audience with Tomas?
Oh, I am alone. And you?
I am alone. Tomas is asked for a chance to clear the air, so I don't think we really tied up all the loose the other night.
Ah, understandable. I'm sure I'm going to get a bit of a lashing myself for not doing too well on our little game the other evening. I did not quite prove myself to be worthy.
Well, you're more good at gathering information than spreading false information. We all have our talents.
But I should be better at that. For spreading false information that those believe are true would be spreading true information, would it not?
Touche. We'll make a good enough liar out of you.
Only time will tell there, brother. Only time will tell. Here's hoping, though.
Yani.
And as the two of you talk and perhaps sit in a moment of silence for a bit, with nothing but the soft roar of a artificial fire in the fireplace. Not one of those TV screens, but some fake, crispy sounds and faux flames rising from the fireplace. There's a moment of silence or two when a door opens and Rosemary let you both in before steps into the room. And she stands there to attention, looks at the both of you, very prim and pretty, and bows to the both of you. I present to you Master Radovan.
Abigail will stand.
Jagtier will, a moment of hesitation, then will also stand.
And in walks Tomas, who very abruptly also just sort of waves Rosemary off as he walks over to his throne, for lack of a better term, and just sits down on his velvet chair as though he is a king looking over his subjects coming before him, wishing to ask him, regale him, whichever.
Only after Tomas sits down and shoos Rosemary away, Abigail will fix her eyes on Rosemary as she exits the room, and then once Tomas sits, Abigail will wait the proper amount, maybe 3 to 5 seconds, and then she will sit as well, bowing her head towards Tomas.
And as one of you sits and the other remains standing, he looks between the both of you. I've been told that you have business with me, and it seems that one is currently standing. So, Jagtier, you can go first.
Very well, Tomas Rodovan. I wanted to make sure, as I don't think we had a chance to fully clear the air the other night when we were at Flora's, but I did not want to head out into the field and leave Sardinia with unfinished business. I have kept some of the scars that you had provided me with in retribution for the situation until I had a chance to maintain and ensure that the matter has been dealt with to both of our satisfactions.
Mm-hmm. And do you believe that is, at this moment in time, satisfactory?
At this moment in time, I think from what hints I have seen of the kind of being you are, is I think that it is not necessarily unfinished business in your eyes. That perhaps you would expect more before you are willing to put this behind us as we look forward to this new era we're going to forge.
What do you expect for me to want, Mr. Jagtier?
That I am uncertain of. From some indications, I would think that you may want compensation for the losses incurred on your part.
He remains a steely face when you speak. He seems to be waiting for other suggestions that you might have as well.
I have not engaged in it, but to make this truly a public affair so that individuals are aware that I have wronged you and have made amends. If your local priest knows the rite of contrition, I would be willing to undergo that holy rite.
He stares at you for a moment, and then just gets up from his seat and starts walking towards you. Not in a menacing way, but in a purposeful way. And then he sort of holds out a hand, his right hand, and one of his fingers is a bit more extended than the rest, and this is the finger with his signet ring on.
With no real etiquette other than movies to go on, Jagtier will pause a moment and then he will slowly reach for the hand
Mm-hmm. And
and
he lets you take the hand.
okay, and then drawing it in, he will kiss the signet ring because he thinks that might be what you're intending, and
Mhm.
then releases the hand.
As you do so, he sort of, his fingers sort of stroke your cheek, not in a loving way, but more in a appraisal way, and he nods. Well done, Jagtier. You have shown that you're willing to humble yourself before another. I do not require you to go through the rite of contrition. Your errors have not been grave enough for such a thing. A simple act of humility and atonement for what you may not realize was a fault is more than enough for me. Thank you. And
Thank
he
you,
walks
brother.
back. He walks back to his seat and sits down. And
Jagtier will yield
yep.
the floor to Abigail as he goes and sits down.
Actually, Jagtier, make me a perception empathy as well.
Woohoo! I actually get 3 dice for that now. Thanks,
Well
guys.
done. No problem.
Woohoo! 2 6s and a 7.
Oh, well done. Um, what you get from him after he sits down in his luscious chair, his futon, his royal seat, is he looks pleased. Not pleased in a high and mighty kind of way, or pleased that he got to be the better of you, but pleased on the fact that you realize perhaps etiquette, realize that respect goes a long way.
Cool.
And in the moment that he sits down and he flashes a short smile, he focuses his gaze on Abigail and his face becomes stone again.
Well, when Abigail sees Tomas sit, she will then stand and say, if you would not mind, there are a few things I would like to talk about, but first and foremost being Solomon and his disrespect towards you and those who have helped us and chosen us for this mission here. I wanted to say that even though I do not have him here with me, that my apologies are I have not been able to locate him since the meeting of the packs. I do believe that he is out thinking about what he has done to be shunned by Oxentios and out of the necropolis. He seems to have had a large amount of respect for the man, and given the circumstances at what happened during the pack presentation, I can understand why he has been a bit hard to locate. But when I do find him, I am planning on having him prove himself as an asset in this mission. I do fear that he has, through his insolence towards you, shown a slight weakness and non-respect for our pack, and that is not what I want. We are here to help and prove successful in this mission in Monaco and for all of Europa.
Your words are well meant. Abigail Adams, Duchess of Legiomontis. You speak very eloquently, I have to admit. However, the Sabbat, we learn that all are free. All are free to do as they please. And even though your words of praise or your words of atonement, so to speak, ring through with me, those words, however, become moot when the person, the Canaanite who has done wrong, is not present to reiterate said words. As a Duchess, you do speak for your pack, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is your priest as well. I cannot say anything on the matter, but I can say this. I've never been a priest. I've never been a very religious man in that particular matter, not a spiritual one. But I do know of the importance of said role. You need to have someone who respects you, the Duchess, who respects the pack, who respects the other packs, and if there's a conflict, is not willing, or not willing, that's not the right word, is not seeming to put his pride in front of everything else. For I fear it might have been Solomon's pride that got him in this mess to begin with. His reluctance to accept that he is not the best Canaanite here. That he is not the apex predator of this island. That he is a pawn like all of us. That all of us have to work. That some have risen to our positions, not by aid, but through merit. I never asked for my position, Miss Adams. I never wanted this position. The sect demanded, and I gave. I will do whatever the regent will ask of me, as we all will. So I appreciate your words, but they are hollow, I'm afraid, without the reinforcement of your priest.
Abby will bow her head and the rest of her body for the most part, trying to get as low as possible without smacking her head into the table in front of her, just to show as a sign of respect. But she's not very happy with the circumstances of what they talked about. But she will still ask other questions. Would it be okay if I asked anything further of you? Or is that kind of thrown out the window now with
Miss Adams, Jagtier, we have been set on this island to guide you, to help you, to work together. Of course you may ask a question of me. Of course you may try and get information if I am able to give. Just know that if I am not able, it's not because I am unwilling.
well, that is definitely good to know indeed, and thank you very much for that. My first question is, on our move to Monaco, What is the plan for insertion of the packs? Shall we attain it on our own, or will it be given to us?
What will be given to you, my dear Miss Adams?
The route into Monaco.
Ah, you're talking about transportation.
Yes.
For a moment, I was wondering if you were thinking to claim Monaco for your own little
Oh,
sect.
no. I meant routes into Monaco.
Transportation will be taken care of.
Well, that is good to know. Thank you very much. Do you happen to have any extra intel that might prove asset to us before our arrival? Like if there are any possible other Sabbat or Anarchs or anything of the like other than Camarilla in Monaco?
As far as I know, Miss Adams, Monaco is not an anarch city. It is Camarilla. It is purely in the firm grip of the tower. As to quantity and quality of their numbers, I can only guess. But what I do know is, quite some time ago, and I do remember it still because I was already around at the time, it used to be ours, Monaco. This is a couple of 100 years ago, of course. And they took it like they have taken most of Europe. And most of our endeavors have always fallen flat regarding. So you should be less worried about which particular faction is most prominent. But think about the lessons that you have learned or should have learned on this island with all of us, with Flora, Oxentius, and myself. We all have had a different role to play in your education.
On that note, I have a question, Tomas.
Of course.
Um, when I was affecting Honey Blossom's mind, was your awareness of what was going on because she was to report everything to you, or was there a lack of subtlety in what I was doing?
Hmm.
If we were to learn lessons, and I will no doubt be in a position of, well, for want of a better term, usurping another's ghouls, it would be nice to know where I went wrong.
Of course. The powers of domination dominate, and presence even as well. It is all about subtlety. Preferably even, it is long-term thinking. For instance, Jagtier, if I wish you to do something for me, short-term, it's easy enough done. But on the short term, your target is going to remember it more. If I, through powers of dominate, tell you to leave this place walk to the nearest cliff and walk over it, or jump. And when you do it, because you will follow my order, hopefully to the letter, but by the time that you do jump and you fall, you start to remember. You start to remember perhaps not what was said, but how you find it peculiar, perhaps, why you are doing one thing or the other. Instead, it's best to try and mask your intentions in a sentence, or even a flourish of sentences, stressing words here and there, together forming a new sentence. And then to plant a suggestion, a correlation, an action reaction that's not going to happen right away. But for instance, when the crow crows 3 times on a Monday night, you will do such and such. You will take up your sword and slay thy friend. Phew! Pull the strings as a puppet master. Set into motion something that will not happen tomorrow, but in a week, maybe 2 weeks, or even longer. You will find that your target will have a very hard time understanding why they did it. But that will be of no import, for they will not link what happened to you, which is the important thing. If your target cannot remember having a very specific conversation with you about something happening, you are in the clear. Now, of course, if you have developed your powers of persuasion, your powers of dominate more, you might make them forget to make a short-term directive more plausible, more workable. So, in short, to answer your question, Jagtier, there was some subtlety, not necessarily missing in your directive, but in the time frame. We are Canaanites. If we wish, we can live for eons. We have all the time in the world to plot and to scheme. It is something that our prey, our food, does not realize. And we can use that understanding against them. Or at least, that's how I do it.
All right. Thank you. Sorry, Abigail, I was not trying to totally derail, but it seemed an appropriate segue.
You did not derail anything, brother. It's mighty informative that you had asked that question. So now I do not have to ask one.
You have no more further questions of me then, Miss Adams? Or you, Jagtier?
No, you have been most helpful indeed, and I cannot promise anything, for I do not want to sound hollow again, but I will try my best to have Solomon come and talk to you himself before we leave Certain.
The only other thing, since you're both here, I will let you know that I have been in touch with Khalid, and he has decided to challenge me to retake the Ductus position. The two of you are welcome to observe the contest to see if he can earn the position that was taken away from him.
May I ponder to question, oh, ponder and beg the question, how does he wish to do it? And who will be blessing the challenge?
Well, it does not seem to be a cause for monomacy. So, that level of blessing, I don't believe is required at this point.
It would be a fool's task to send a fellow Canite to their death over a trivial matter.
Yes, well, I have met individuals like that before. However, if you have a priest that would be wanting to bless aside from myself, perhaps we could see if Solomon might be available.
I can definitely see if, when I stumble upon and finally find Brother Solomon, that he would bless your monumency. Sorts.
Not, yeah, just a challenge.
Yeah,
It's just
of
a
sorts.
challenge.
Of sorts.
If the both of you look at Thomas in any way or form, you can roll me perception empathy.
Gotcha.
Well, since I'm more or less facing him, then I believe I...
Yes. Unless you really are turning away from him and just looking at Abigail. Ooh, 3 successes. Well done, Abigail.
What up?
I got successes.
You got no.
Emotions? What?
Alright, Jagtier. Nothing to see here. Move along. Abigail, there's something in his facial expression, the raising of an eyebrow, that seems to hint that it's not directly that he disapproves of the idea of having Solomon be the priest, but more that you get the idea that he would not really. He seems to have a disapproving look. That's probably the best way to put it. It's a disapproving look that he just looks, and when Solomon's name is mentioned in priesthood, and being a fair judge, which a priest needs to do be in such a situation. You get the feeling that he finds that idea foreign. Not
Yeah.
abhorrent, just foreign.
Yeah. And in seeing Tomas's face change, Abigail will, of course, say, well, that is, unless Tomas believes that there is someone else who can be of higher worthy to bless this challenge. If there is no one else, then I'm sure my priest Solomon could be of help. But I'm sure there are others more fit to the task.
It's more if you cannot find your priest, which you have been unable to for a while now, Duchess Adams. I do believe that at Castle Castellados we have Claudio, who, well, knows many rites on writing, and unlike Auxentius does not have the language barrier that most of you seem to have with him.
Well, I would be honored then for Claudio to bless the challenge.
Abigail smiles when she hears Claudio's name.
In more remote areas and within just one pack, it's not that uncommon for a priest to bless their own challenges. Since while I have accepted the Ductus position, I have not abdicated the priestly position of our pack. I would still be able to perform the blessing as well.
However, there's going to be the problem that might arise if you bless your own challenge. Since you are the challengee and the blessee, there is a conflict of interest. Perhaps. I'm not saying there is, of course, but there could be.
I could see
And,
where that could be construed.
and you do not wish the challenge to be sullied in any way or form. It needs to be a clean challenge.
Of a certainty, Khalid has had not been received with as much positive feedback as I upon our arrival here. This would be a good opportunity for him to earn the position in more ways than one.
Good. I am sure that will make up for his absence at the introduction earlier. Let me then pose a counter question. How fares the plans for Monaco?
The two of us have spoken at some length and traded information, and further information that I'm receiving will be passed on to the other pack. The two of us are going to make sure that we keep a coalition of full communication so that we can coordinate, and we've already assigned some plans and targets and who would be best suited for each. I'm surprised and a little distrustful to discover that there's only a dozen of the enemy in Monaco.
Less? To
Less
what?
than a dozen?
To what Brother Bastian has told me? Less than a dozen for the amount of populace in the city.
The tower is often not there in numbers, but they are there in fingers, in pies, so to speak. Just because you have one Cainite, that does not mean that one Cainite cannot have a lot of control over a city. One Cainite could control the news media, the police, the judicial system, all by him or herself. And then you might find that although we often take our prey for granted, even when cockroaches or rats come in numbers, they can still have a bite, they can still have a sting. Especially with ants, you see. When the worker ants or the soldier ants rally behind their queen, they can amount to, do not wish to say great things, because that is something they will never amount to. They can be moved to do extraordinary things. For
So
instance, yes?
if that's the case, there's only the 5 or 6 or 7 that we are told, and they each have areas of influence. Obviously, they have some fairly solid control to keep us out for this long. But if their different spheres of control started pitting against each other, that would cause a lot of friction between those who consider themselves the puppet masters. The one who controls the police, and the one who controls the crime, and the one that controls the media would be at odds with each other if their minions were at each other.
Thomas just narrows his eyes and there's a very content look on his face. Yes, Jagtier. There's always something that we will have that they will never have, that the tower will never have. Unity. Even though we might have our differences at times, we know what it is like to work together, to put differences aside, and to move forward for the greatness and the betterment of the second. They, much like puppet masters, they are careless at times, and the strings of their puppets might get strangled or entangled with the strings of another puppet. And all you will have to do is get your scissors and cut. Chaos can be achieved in many ways and forms. You can create it by blowing up a bridge, or you can create it by, like you said, Jagtier, very smart. I knew you were chosen for a reason. To pit the minions against each other, or at least at odds with each other.
Well, thank you. I never thought I was as dumb as I look. Um, wait. Well, you know what I mean.
There's a faint smile on his face. Perhaps one of the few times where you actually see Thomas in his more playboy persona instead of his very stony look that he has been having a lot this past month. It could have all been so much easier. Well, you'll be leaving soon. Tomorrow or the day after. And sadly, I do not have a parting gift for you, Jagtier. Your parting gift has already been destroyed.
Yeah. Oh well.
Oh well, we can always get new playthings, I'm sure. Perhaps if you're good, I might send a new plaything for you.
Well, I have kind of replaced the role of arm candy, but I'm sure we'll keep in touch. I know the esteemed, uh, the name escapes me right now. The esteemed Zimis had given us specific requests for the fate of Monaco. Is there anything in particular that you would like us to arrange on your behalf as part of our takeover?
Just a second, I need to roll something real quick when you do that. Can anyone beat 5 successes on their perception empathy?
Oh, hell no.
Alright, he's stone faced. Or actually, no, he's smiling. Even he's very happily smiling when you mention Velia. Anything that you could do for me? Well, I've been told that there are very lavish parties in Monaco. Gold, cars. Oh no, that's the other country with a lot of rich people. But there's a lot of glitter and glamour in Monaco. Well, perhaps an invitation then if there's any of these marvelous parties happening. I would love to attend such a gathering. Feast my eyes on these socialites of Monaco. Sardinia are less civilized.
For a certainty, I have a few that I'm kind of keeping an eye on to, because I assumed that's where we would be able to find some of our foes. But I guess we'll see.
I'm sure. Just look for any tower where they might be leaning out of, looking down at the people. It is what they prefer to do anyway.
All right.
Now, Miss Adams, was there anything else?
No, no, I do not believe so. Thank you, though.
Good, good. Then I have something else for you. As he just claps 2 times, and the door opens, and Rosemary comes trotting in with a cart with a nice little drape over it. Just walks with her booty swinging from left to right in front of Thomas, who sort of rubs his hands together. Now, I believe you were the loser of the game the other night.
And her head kind of goes down and looks at the table. I didn't mention this earlier, but I know you can see it on camera. She hasn't been wearing her hood up the whole time. You've been able to see her face the whole evening.
He didn't make any remarks regarding the matter. That would be a breach of etiquette. As he removes the drape, there are various implements of torture on this particular table. From the cat of nines to a simple handle and long blade, perhaps to fillet. And he sort of just with both hands motions. Shall I choose or shall you?
But of course, why would I take the joy of it from you? Your choice, Mr.
Intriguing. Now I do remember you showing great fortitude when you traversed the fire at the meeting at the Castle Castellanos. So I assume that you have a great threshold for pain. And you will actually not pick up the 9 tails, but a simple whip. But what you notice at the end, it's not a leather tip, but there's not a needle, because it's thicker than a needle, but indeed claw. No. And then he sort of looks at Jagtier. How many lashes do you believe should be sufficient?
But of course, again, that is not my choice. Why would I take the pleasure from
Silence, Miss Adams. This was a question to Jagtier, the winner of the game.
We went 3 rounds with 3 lashes.
3 lashes. I would sooner go for 30, but let me meet you halfway then. There were 4 of us, 3 rounds. 12 lashes should suffice, shouldn't they, Miss Adams?
Abigail will only nod her head.
Good, good. Rosemary, please detain Miss Adams on the cross over there. And you will notice that Rosemary, meanwhile, has gone through another door, came back out, and sort of drags very difficultly a sort of wooden cross in the axe, actually, and sort of like, oh, it's heavy, sir. Moves it from side to side and then sort of places it sort of leaning against the wall. And she just sort of takes you by the hand. Do you wish to wear all your clothes, Miss Adams, or shall I remove them for you?
Feel free to remove them if you'd like, Rosemary. And she will just eyeball Rosemary from toe to head.
Rosemary just sort of looks at you for a moment, then looks at Thomas, who shrugs. And Rosemary once again says, okay, well, I suppose I could at least remove something, so you don't have ripped clothing. And she'll proceed to remove your vest, your hoodie. She then gets rope, right? Bind your hands on both sides, your feet, and without getting too much into detail, because I don't think we need to get into too much. Thomas just stands behind you and sort of feels the whip in his hand, and you hear the soft crack of the leather. As he makes a few practice snaps right beside your head so you can hear the snap. Then you hear the snap. And then he goes to lash. You feel the first. The fishhook sinks in your back and rips just a little piece of flesh. The second. The third. He is taking his time. The fourth, the fifth. Slowly but steadily your back will start to open ever so slightly. 7, 8. At this point, if you wouldn't mind rolling willpower to not scream out, because it's about to go a bit more painful. Right, so that's a single success. You clench your teeth together. For when the next few hits hit your back, it feels like a lot more than just 4 more strikes. It feels heavier. And since you can't see it, but Jagtier might, Jagtier, roll me Perception Alertness at a difficulty 8 to see if you notice something in the coming 4 strikes.
1 success.
1 success, that is enough. As you see Thomas whip back, you actually see the hand move faster than it's supposed to move. It just goes, but it all seems to be one strike if your eyes were not trained to it. It seems that your host is cheating a little bit in his strikes. But who are you to say that he shouldn't?
Who am I to question?
And I'm just going to roll a quick roll by the end of the lashing to see how much. No, that's not the one. It's 3 points of lethal after soaking for you, Abigail. That's not too much. As Jagtier, you can see, well, she wasn't pretty to begin with, but now she is not pretty and bloody. There's a nice little pool forming, drenching into the cross, and you cannot help but notice or wonder the color of the wood. Are some spots darker than others? Oh, perhaps this has happened more than once, and you wonder, perhaps even amusingly, or bemusingly wonder, perhaps this is what he would do to his retainers as well, for enjoyment, because some people do get a kick out of things like this. He then rolls up his whip, puts it on the cart, it gets driven off, and then he walks over to Abigail, and if Abigail wishes to spend blood to heal, that's totally cool, by the way.
I don't think she will in his presence. I think she's going to take the punishment and not spend any blood until after she's out of his presence.
He just walks over to you, and from seemingly out of nowhere, Jagtier, he produces a knife and starts to cut Abigail those. As he sort of, as because you were raised a little bit above the ground, so to have you hover and have more pain if you weren't a Cainite. So when you drop, he sort of catches you. You have to steel yourself a little bit. And he looks at you approvingly. A Cainite that is willing to get a beating, that does not scream out during such an event, but takes a punishment in stride with pride, is a true Cainite indeed. And then he just grabs the side of your hands and kisses you on the forehead, which seems a bit reminiscent of Auxentius in your mind, how he would give praise, but then without the words, because he would just do stuff and you would not really know what the hell he's been saying to you the whole time.
That's what he did.
Exactly. Something along those lines. He then nods at the both of you. Fair tidings in Monaco. Ducti, or Ducti and Priest perhaps, in the future. Until we meet again. And he will just walk out of here.
Abigail will simply just put her clothes back on and not say anything. And as she flips everything up and over herself, she will look over to Jagtier and say, "Productive night. I think we shall be off now."
Yes, sister. I shall inform you once we make the arrangements for the challenge, so you can come and greet either your new brother or at least observe me defend my position.
I look forward to seeing the challenge. I often do revel in those moments myself.
Well, win or lose, it'll be a good learning opportunity for Khalid.
Indeed, brother, indeed. And with that, Abigail will saunter off and out of the castle, making her way back to where Brother Bastien is.
And with that, we shall leave you, dear viewers. A lot of discussion, a few burnt bridges reassembled, and soon we shall head out to the big city of Monaco. So with that, have a good night. Lofkein.